Hey folks, let me ask you a question. Can a leopard change its spots? Absolutely not. Whoa! I can almost hear you shouting at the screen, Derek, that's not what I expected you to say. So does that mean that you and I are stuck the way we are? There's no possibility for change? We can't become the best version of ourselves that we were meant to be? Well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a leopard, and you and I also, cannot change our own spots. In and of ourselves, we don't have the power to change fundamentally. But that doesn't leave us without hope, because the one who created the leopard, God himself, can choose to change the leopard spots and your and my failings. There's good examples of that in the chapters that we've read from the Acts of the Apostles this week. The lives of two people in particular. Saul of Tarsus, who came to be known as Paul the Apostle, and Simon the big fisherman, whom Jesus renamed Peter. At the end of chapter 7 and the beginning of chapter 8, just after Stephen the deacon was stoned for proclaiming his faith, there's a verse which says, "And Saul approved of their killing him." Wow. But what's even more of a wow is that when you get to the end of chapter 14 of Acts, only 6 chapters later, we find these words. "Then some Jews came from Antioch and Iconium and won the crowd over. They stoned Paul and dragged him outside the city, thinking he was dead." In the space of a very short period, Saul has gone to become Paul. He's come to believe in Jesus, and instead of persecuting those who followed Christ, he himself has become someone who proclaims the gospel, the good news about Jesus, and his life is under threat. How did that happen? Did he make a decision to change? No. If you read chapter 9, you'll see an amazing story of how Saul met the risen Lord Jesus on the road to Damascus, and his life was irrevocably changed. The story about Simon Peter is kind of similar. Simon was raised a Jew, and yet when he went onto the roof of his home to have an afternoon nap one day, he had a vision or a dream, whichever it was, and God spoke to him. And then he received an invitation from a guy called Cornelius in Caesarea, a non-Jew, a Gentile, to come and speak at his home. Now, Simon Peter, as a good Jew, would never normally have done that, and yet he responded to the request because God had changed his mind and his heart so that he was open to everyone hearing and knowing the good news about Jesus. Saul became Paul. Not only his name changed, but so does his nature. Simon becomes Peter. Not only does his name change, but his attitude to other people changes as well. You see, God, the Creator, can change the spots of a leopard. Now, there's a remarkable verse in here which I noticed, and I must have read it a number of times, but I really noticed it with a force for the first time this week. It's Paul speaking, and he says, "My friends, I want you to know that through Jesus the forgiveness of sins is proclaimed to you. Through him, everyone who believes is set free from every sin, a justification you were not able to obtain under the law of Moses." Saul was raised in the school of the Pharisees, and he would be taught throughout his life that he had to be under the law, that he had to obey the law, that it was through the law that he would attain righteousness. And yet here he is admitting that the law is limited to bring change in our lives. That it's only Jesus and through faith in him that true change, lasting change, can come about. Some of you know that I'm a runner, and after about a year of injury, I've returned to running again. And over the past 12 months, through running and watching my diet, I've managed to lose now something like 2.5 stone in weight, about 35 pounds, 15 kilos. A lot of willpower involved in that, and I'm pleased to be healthier than I was before. But there's a whole lot of stuff in my life that I can't change, that willpower, that discipline will simply not be able to overcome. My attitudes, words, actions, thoughts, emotions, the way I treat people. Only God can change me at the core of my being. And that message is there in these chapters 10 to 14 of the Acts of the Apostles that we've read this week. It's a message not just for me, but I believe for you, for all humankind.